My name is Andrew Getman. I'm one of the managers here at Politics and Prose, and I welcome all of you today. As you know, we have many events here at the store. We have things going on nearly every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And if you're not already plugged in, connected through our email list or checking our calendar online, or if you'd like to be a mail subscriber, we encourage you to do that and just stay informed so you can stay involved. We do consider ourselves much more than just a bookstore. We are a community space that welcomes conversation. We have classes, book groups, and author talks such as this one. And so welcome, and thank you for coming. Meryl Comer is an Emmy Award-winning 30-year veteran reporter, producer, and talk show host. She was among the first TV newswomen in the 1980s to specialize in business news as it relates to public policy with a nationally syndicated debate show, It's Your Business. She also co-anchored Nation's Business Today for 6 years on ESPN. She's now the president CEO of the Geoffrey Beene Foundation Alzheimer's Initiative, which is prominently providing 100% of the net profits of the Geoffrey Beene income dedicated to the foundation, along with their work with cancer, wounded warriors, and protection of women and children. She's provided testimony before Congress, served on the 2008 Alzheimer's Study Group, and 2 terms on the National Board of the Alzheimer's Association. She's a founding member of U.S. Against Alzheimer's and a co-founder of the Women Against Alzheimer's Network. Alzheimer's disease affects a reported 36 million people worldwide. Her husband, Dr. Harvey Gralnick, was the chief of hematology and oncology at the National Institute of Health when he was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at age 58. Ms. Comer chose to leave her television career at that time to become a caregiver, both for her husband and then for her mother, who had late onset Alzheimer's, in home hospice. Since the 1996 diagnosis, she's become an outspoken advocate for greater awareness and more research on this illness and for the rights of caregivers and patients alike. In her book, Slow Dancing with a Stranger, Lost and Found in the Age of Alzheimer's, she details her life as a caretaker and advocate, the struggle to get a diagnosis, the emotional and financial hardships, and the limitations of long-term facilities. It's a profoundly honest story of courage and hard work. So to enhance the public conversation, she's come to share her book with us today. And so thank you very much. I welcome Meryl Comer.
Thank you. And my thanks to you all coming out on this glorious day, this last day of summer. I'm really very touched. The issue is very important, I think, to all of us. I'd like to do a survey. I'm much more interested in the audience than I am in myself. So I want to ask you, how many have a family member or relative with this disease in the audience? How many have a friend or colleague whose loved one has been affected? A family member or friend in a caregiver role. Are you concerned about a loved one or yourself? Raise your hands. Are there any doctors, lawyers, psychiatrists, or politicians in the audience? Oh, good. We have a good conversation going. This is a very special audience to me because you are engaged around the body politic in this town, and to the C-SPAN audience, this to me is one of the most important stops that I will ever make on a book tour. This morning I Googled to see how many books have been written on Alzheimer's. There are over 11,000 books, which prompted me to think, do we really need another book on Alzheimer's? And out of respect for this audience, I thought I'd better tell you what this book is and what it isn't, in case you haven't read it. First of all, I applaud the thousands of authors who have written books to loved ones, to honor their memory, to speak of spiritually how they've learned to live within the disease. If you recall, this disease has been around for a very long time, and many of the nonprofits that grew up in that space had to help people live in the moment. When there's a disease with no cure, you have to be able to live in that space with a loved one that stretches out over years. The span of a disease like Alzheimer's can last from 3 to 20 years. And I'm right on the tip of 20 years, told that my husband would not last long because he was an early onset victim. And we can get into that issue later. Most of the books that I have read can't keep up with the idiosyncratic twists and turns of how each of us dements. After all, let's be respectful of ourselves. It's our brain. And we are different personalities. So it is very hard to write the book that will tell you how to manage a loved one through this process. But I couldn't write a book that what I call accepts the status quo. I have great admiration for those who help others live in the space, but I'm out to change something because this is a disease that will ravage our generation as baby boomers and create an untenable burden on our children. And I really find that totally unacceptable. So I'll share with you some of the descriptions. And when you put yourself out there as an author, you really put yourself out there as an author. Raw, unvarnished. But I also believe, and the reason I was willing to write it, it's a shout out to all caregivers, because caregivers are the keeper of the secret. We know the details, but most people don't want our details. So we are very quiet. We believe that it's our responsibility to protect a loved one's dignity. And we do that very well. We do that by hiding loved ones away so you never see what the disease really looks like. It is very painful to see a smart individual reduced and totally dependent on you, or someone who can't remember who you are. I think that is one of the most traumatic things that happens. Because this is such an important audience, I thought I would like to share with you some of the latest statistics. I don't know if those of you in the New Republic this week, the age of Alzheimer's, you and everyone you know will eventually be touched by this disease, but living with it doesn't need to be so cruel. This is a very cruel disease. 50% of people will develop some form of dementia by the time they are 85 years of age. And remember that 85 now is the fastest growing demographic in this country. And also, by the way, predominantly women. So this is a huge issue. So let's fast forward, and I will not go beyond 2030 because politicians can't get beyond the 1 year. We will have 76 million people suffering from this disease. Now, the impact is growing. 44 million victims worldwide, 10 million baby boomers, and $1 trillion in annual costs to care for loved ones with this disease. And this is what we view as the crisis of our generation and our children. Those are the numbers. We spend $215 billion annually on this disease. And if you look at the very bottom, that little red line, less than 1% on research. So let's do a comparative on the numbers. We spend about $9 billion on HIV/AIDS. I believe in that. Cancer, around $5 billion a year. And less than 1% when we have 76 million baby boomers turning 65 at the rate of 10,000 a day, 4 million a year for the next 20 years. The youngest baby boomer, by the way, turned 50. Anybody here 50? Younger than 50? Because I want to talk to your generation too. This just came out from a Merrill Lynch study done in conjunction with AgeWave. More people now cite Alzheimer's